Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones, and tonight I'm going to give you a little bit of politics, but I'm mainly going to talk about the culture. And I'm going to say this: is technology destroying the culture? Is technology destroying the culture? Now, I want to bring this into the forefront. It's because with this new advancement of robotics, you have self propelled cars, you even have auto pay. Now, auto pay is one of the big ones that I want to get into because you have a number of companies out here, and I know I have Geico, my insurance company. And when it comes to freedom, Geico really doesn't want you to have freedom over your own money when it comes to paying your insurance. What they want to do is keep the premium higher if you don't want them to actually go into your account known as auto pay to take the money out of your account themselves. Now, when it comes to freedom, there are many of us out here who don't understand what freedom is, but then we want socialism, we want communism, particularly the groups that really want the socialism and the communism. It's really the baby boomers, some Gen Xers, and a lot of your late millennials and your Gen Zs, because they're looking at everything from an aspect of convenience. Now, of course, the baby boomers, they actually got first dibs on the jobs. They had all of the pensions after World War II. They had the cheaper housing costs. Whereas, okay, Gen Xers like me, we were latchkey kids. We basically had to fend for ourselves because we had adults that really didn't want to stay home and take care of the children. The dad, of course, had to work, but the mom wanted to go out and work. And the mom believed that going out to work gives her some empowerment, particularly if you look in the Black community, it gives her a reason not to listen to a Black man. That's why she goes to school. But with all of that being said, the technology, now I like the technology. It is very good technology that we have, but there are some issues with it. Robots. Saw a video the other day that TJ gave me where a robot just totally, I believe it was a restaurant, destroyed a restaurant. Now you have to understand something about robots. And this is the technology that people don't want to get into. You see, if you don't understand AI today, you're totally screwed. But you have to understand that AI can be wrong as well. I know, and I can prove it to you. I utilized AI for a quiz one time. I made up my own quiz. And I went on to Claude, I went on to Grok, I went on to Chat GPT, I went on to Copilot, I went on to Google Gemini. Well, do you know, I put an integral problem up there. 3 of the 5 AI platforms got it wrong. But you have some students out there who are utilizing AI for all of their research. The bottom line is you still have to utilize research from the surface. And when you, correction, from the depth. Now, the problem is in society, we have so many people who really believe that Google is the answer, or they actually look at everything from the surface. But in reality, they don't understand how this country works. And when it comes to robots, Japan is already using robots. If you look at the manufacturing industry, they're already using robots. Now, the issue with all this technology is it's taking the human element out of everything. How many of you have gotten on the phone and let's say you wanted to call your congressperson? Well, it used to be where you would get a staff member. Now, when you make a call, you get menus. You probably get 9 different menus. And if you press number 9, it's going to take you all the way back to number 1. And now they even have it if you press 0, they want you to leave a message. And if you look at meetings today, now this is post 2020, when we had COVID, where everybody had to stay home, work remotely, and we utilized platforms like Skype. Well, Skype is no longer out there. We have Microsoft Teams, we have Zoom, and there are other platforms. But when you utilize technology too much, we start getting used to it, and it controls our lives. You look at the self-driving vehicles. The problem I have with the self-driving vehicle is who's controlling that self-driving vehicle? How is that self-driving vehicle going to perform in traffic? And who's using a self-driving vehicle? Now, I know at Purdue University, they actually have little robots. Now, those robots have sensors in them. When they have to make a delivery, they also sense that there's traffic coming back and forth. But the robots are made to cross, and this is what I see, at crosswalks. Now, that is safe. Now, you have to understand about the technology. Somebody created that technology. And all these machines that are coming out, somebody has to maintain them. You look at this cell phone. What is a cell phone? We rely on that a lot as well. It's a mini computer. You have some cell phones out there with a gigabyte of RAM. Well, some of your laptops have a gigabyte of RAM. Now, the issue is we do depend on the cell phones a lot. Your email. I remember there were times where the cell phone, all you could do was make calls. Now, texting evolved basically from the pager. Used to be, once the pager went away, you had looked like a typewriter on the side. Well, you could page the phone number, but you can dial a message. Because generally when we had pagers, and it's funny because pagers were around roughly 30 years ago. I remember the craze. I had a couple of pagers. Dial the phone number, look at the phone number that called, and call that phone number back. Now, granted, with all this technology, guess what else you have? You also have a large impact of spam calls and spam email. And you have a lot of criminals out here who are trying to get your information. Furthermore, with all this technology, when you walk into the urban areas, you have a lot of cameras. And then where you're not free is people don't have to know you. But if you're involved in something, you could find yourself on a viral video and you wouldn't know it because you have so many people who are utilizing their phones to record everything that's going on. Now, why am I bringing this to the forefront? Because the technology, although it's good and it's convenient, is also chopping away at our freedoms. Again, I'm not going to skip over it. I want to talk about automatic payment. And I'm going back to Geico. Now, and I like Geico, no slap in the face to Geico. I've had them for a long time. But with Geico, and I know some other companies do, they really don't want you to pay your bill on your own. So what they'll do is they will take that premium and make it cost more. But now the way they put in this clever mechanism to utilize, well, if you use auto pay, we'll give you a decrease or a discount. Well, to me, it's a clever move because it is a way for them to control your account on that day that the bill is due. Now, it sounds convenient, but you have to understand this. There are challenges that come with auto pay. And the biggest challenge is, and it's happened to me, you really have to watch your money. Because if you don't pay attention, if you have one bill coming out on one day, you might have another bill coming out on another day, and then you end up overdrawn, paying $29, $30 of overdraft fees. And then you also have to look at this as well when it comes to auto payments. Trying to get your money back is tough. I know we had an issue with Ally when we pay our car note. Ally took 2 payments. And sometimes they take a long time to post the payment after they get the money. The problem is you have a number of individuals, and it's not the human's fault. Your money is being taken out by way of the computer. It's the same thing with YouTube. And it's the same thing with clips. When I hear politics, what politicians are doing now, they're going on those media networks. And I shouldn't say politicians, because it did happen with Kamala Harris. She was asked last year, or the year before last, when she was running for president, what would you do about Iran or Iraq? Well, she stumbled through it. But then 60 Minutes came back with an edited version. And it made her sound like she knew what she was talking about. This is why Donald Trump sued 60 Minutes. And the problem with a lot of these clips, problem with a lot of these pictures, the problem with posting a lot of information on the internet is when you're from the internet, on going to Facebook, using it as news, coming up here to YouTube, using everything as news, is you don't know what's true. And see, this technology is taking real dumb people and it makes them look like geniuses because they know how to upload pictures. They know how to do graphics because they're depending on AI. They're not depending on their own authenticity. That's the issue. You look at your credit cards. And this is what I'm talking about, freedom. This system, if you don't understand how it works, even with technology, it's always going to keep you in debt. You notice the government is always in debt. They're always spending money, writing blank checks. Well, they do just as the culture does. Humans do the same thing. The bottom line is you have a number of people who believe that they're making a lot of money out here. They have a house, they have a car. But one thing about this society today is really nobody owns anything. I mean, you have people who own a business, but guess what? If it's a brick and mortar, they don't own the building that they're in. They're paying somebody to rent that building out. And generally, what I believe in this society, because it's so technologically advanced, my humble opinion is they want what we call a renters type of society where people are coming and going. If you look at it, they're building a lot of apartments, smart apartments. And see, when you talk about smart apartments, then you're getting into public Wi-Fi. Well, the problem with public Wi-Fi is it's not secure. So individuals, if there's no code, they could see you going on your internet. Or they could see what you're doing on the internet. McDonald's has public Wi-Fi. And the reason why I'm saying it, because when you have individuals that are gathering your information, they sell your information. The next thing you know, you're getting information out as spam mail. And it's funny because I get every day from Nicholas Lloyd Law Firm about a debt that's not even mine, the same 6 spam emails. And you can always tell it's a spam email by looking at where it's coming from. If it's not a .com, a .org, a .edu, a .gov, you need to check it out. And something else that I have to bring to the forefront as well, CDLs. Now, because you had a number of illegals in California getting CDLs, well, you want to know what the new dig is now with a CDL, particularly every 2 years, you have to pass a medical physical. Well, it used to be that once you passed the medical physical, either the doctor who gave you the physical would fax the information down to your local Department of Motor Vehicles. Or you could do it yourself. You get a copy, you could take it into DMV yourself. Well, I actually called up about mine. And there are a number of us who earn our CDLs. So I called up. It's Allied Occupational, and shout out to them. They're on 82nd Street right here in Indianapolis. Very good people to go to. But I will tell you this: don't go to Concentra. Don't go there. There are health clinic. Go to anything that deals with occupation. They will get you through. But here's the thing: when you take your physical Now, the company, what they have to do now is they take your information and it has to be sent electronically to Washington, D.C. And that's for the Federal Motor Vehicle Carriers Association. That's in Washington, D.C. Now, once they get it, then they send it out to the states. Now, what is wrong with that? I'll tell you what's wrong with that. Now you have an extra layer of government that now takes a process that was very simple and they complicate. And you're getting letters in the mail saying that if we don't receive your CDL certification by a certain date, then we're going to downgrade your CDL to a regular passenger's license. So, what you have to constantly do is you have to call up the doctor or the examiner who gave you the exam, and you have to make sure that they are sending the information to the Federal Motor Vehicle Carriers Association. Now, they do have a phone number, it's a 202 number, but they don't, but that 202 number is just a support line. They do have an email. You can't even email anything. It has to come from the examiner. Now, this started last year in 2025. But you see where I'm going with everything. Your debit cards, too, they can be hacked. So there are individuals out here who talk about freedom, but do they really want freedom? They might want freedom to speak their mind on something, even if it doesn't make sense, but they want the technology. The problem is with a lot of technology is also developed by humans. It's the humans who program this technology. Now, this technology that you all like, if you go in a lot of these grocery stores here, I know I go into Walmart, Kroger. Well, here's another thing that's happening as well. You know, people were talking about individuals not getting their EBT cards, stealing out of Walmart. You know what? Yeah, individuals stealing out of Walmart before that happened. And I'm going to tell you why it happened. Because, you know, if I wanted to get slick, you can beat that camera out of Walmart. All you got to do is go get some bags. I'm not telling you to do it, but you go get some bags. You put the food in the bags. You go out to the bathroom. You walk right through these lines. So you can already see you pay for it. You walk out. You can't touch it. But here's the problem with the technology, the self-checkout. There's a lot of theft with the self-checkout. I know Dollar General. I use Dollar and CVS because it's much easier, even with this technology. It's much easier for an individual to walk out with merchandise. And then when that happens, you have loss prevention, right? So you have to pay more for that. So that means the cost of the product goes up. This is what individuals aren't looking at when it comes to, well, why is everything so high? We do have shoplifters. I mean, I've seen on videos where individuals walk out of Target and Walmart with a 55-inch TV, particularly in California. But you have all this technology, right? Technology didn't stop them. Because in California, they had a rule that if you steal up to $1,000, they can't, you're not going to get prosecuted. So you just walk out of the store, and now that business, when they get another 55-inch colored TV, it's going to go from 300 to 600 because they have to make up for the loss. Now, I'm explaining all this to you is because we rely on so much technology. And I love technology. But here's the problem. If it gets in the wrong hands, there's hell to pay. This is why, like if you go to college, now some of this should be on my STEM channel, but if you go to college, you need to understand cybersecurity. You need to understand phishing. You need to understand, you need to understand spam email. You need to understand what an email actually looks like because you have some individuals that are very, very clever. They can use professional businesses and have websites that look very professional. But if you don't dig deep enough, you're going to find that that website that looks professional, it's going to scam you. Now, before I was doing politics, about a couple of years ago, and you can go back and look at some of my scam videos, your credit cards, technology. Something else you need to understand when you go to the gas pump, and I'm just making you aware because this is the freedom. When you put your card in that gas pump, make sure you don't see any skimmers around. If you go into any gas station, the skimmer, what the skimmer is going to do, it's going to detect your card. And once your card has been compromised, individuals are going to take advantage of it. I mean, have I had my card compromised? Absolutely. And you need to check your accounts as well. See, everything is done by computer. Even your going out for a job. Did you know that, we talk about the algorithm here on YouTube? Well, the same thing goes when it comes to looking for a job. Now, back in the days, you could qualify for a job. But nowadays, even human resources is automated now. Because when you are looking for a job, you send your resume out there, you may qualify for that job, but you're not going to get the interview for some reason. Yes, it can be a good old boy and a good old girls network out there as well. However, I know the federal government has been doing this for a long time. You have to put keywords into your resume. Why? Because the computer wants to see those keywords. That's how you get the interview. It's just like the algorithm. One of the reasons why my channel is still stuck around 2260, 2270, it's because I'm not in the algorithm. I'm not here all the time. And see, the algorithm, being in the algorithm here, it produces a lot of grifting. The content gets watered down. And what happens? You start to lose your audience. Because individuals looked at your content one way, but now when the advent of Venmo, PayPal, Cash App came into play, and money can get stolen from Cash App as well. There was a YouTuber who had money stolen from Cash App. Not going to mention his name. He had a lot of money stolen from Cash App because his account, I believe, may have been compromised. But I want to keep on making you all aware of what's going on out here. DoorDash. Robotic cars for DoorDash. And you might think, oh, this looks great. But they don't tell you anything about the safety. You might think the technology is helping. And technology, it can help. It can also put you out of a job. See, the baby boomers and some of the early Gen Xers, my age, they took everything as far as pensions are concerned, particularly with the government. Yeah, working for the government. I remember when I worked for PennDOT in 2007, worked with a lot of the baby boomers. Oh, they were telling me how good it was, how they had free health care. I mean, just about everything was free. They basically got nothing taken out of their check except for taxes. Well, then I come in, then we're paying our health care. Everything went down the drain. Why? Because health providers wanted more money. I mean, if you look at everything out here too, culture wise, everybody's talking about this Iran war. Now, I am not for Israel for everything. In fact, I don't, when it comes to Israel, I don't really trust Israel. But you have a number of individuals out here who have turned on Trump. Well, first of all, they were never with him in the first place. You have too many Zionists out here. And when it comes to politics, I believe we need to vote them all out. Even though I'm not an Obama fan, he was a president. Joe Biden was a president. The president is a figurehead, but the president only gets a short time. Well, you have to be careful. And I'm just going to say this, and this is going to suck. One of the reasons why we have issues up here in this culture, because men aren't running it. We're allowing too many women and too many foreign nationals run everything here. That's what's happening. And in the meantime, the men who are the patriotic individuals, because if you look at all these protests out here, it's a lot of old people out here, a lot of lazy sloths out here, bragged about what they had. See, America has become a materialistic country. Individuals hide under their materials. Even college is somewhat material because you have a number of people going to college, but they're straddled with debt. They don't tell you that. What you need to know is that here in America, as good as this country is, you might say, I'm living a dream. No, you're living in a scheme. Everything is assumed, particularly if you look at everything from the surface. I always tell individuals, when you do research, and start at the surface, but you better dig deeper because you're not always going to find your answer at the surface. You're not. You may get lucky, but I guarantee the answer is a little deeper. And guess why people don't go a little deeper? Because they don't want to do the work. They get an easy answer, and then they use that easy answer as fact. It's not fact. And individuals aren't willing to do the work. They depend on this technology to do the work for them. One of the reasons why you have a lot of ignorance on social media is social media allows it. But when you put some truth out there that used to be normal, they want to silence you. And that's what's wrong with this country. The globalism. You have too many elites running everything here. Now, I can understand why some people are upset with the Jews because they own most of the media that we have. And then you got Africans, they're looking for reparations. Well, hell, newsflash, the Africans sold other black people into slavery. That's another thing. We have all this technology, but people can't do the basics like add, subtract, multiply, and divide. People don't know the three branches of government, but they live the lie because the lie makes them feel good. See, when you live the lie and you believe it's the truth, then when the actual truth comes out, you'll be disappointed. And then you'll want to cancel the truth. This is what's going on with the media. And the news media is really at the surface because the Democratic Party uses the news media to try to shut the argument down. You know, we're still hearing about Minnesota. What's going on? You have Hakeem Jeffries out there. He's preaching doom and gloom. But you have a number of Democrats. If you look on so many sites, what Democrats are going to win the midterms. Now, let me tell you something about the midterms, first of all. One of the reasons why the party in power doesn't win the midterms is because many of them don't go out and vote. Most people turn out the highest numbers in the presidential election, not during the midterms. Why is that? Because generally, okay, even if Trump loses one of the houses, he's still going to have some power. Now, the Democrats are going to try to impeach him. They're trying to do it now. But they're not going to garner enough votes. You need 67. It's not going to happen. It'll be a civil war. But when you have people in this country who don't understand how anything works here, these are the guys getting on the internet. And I know, shout out to McKee's going, shout out to Professor Nez. You got to get the Professor Nez. He does some great research. He used to be a professor. And if you want particularly some Black masculinist news, Dr. Tiasan Johnson. He went to my alma mater, Temple University in Philadelphia. But you have to listen to what's going on out here. And we talk about DEI, and as a Black man, we don't benefit from DEI. We've never benefited from DEI. We've always had to figure it out. But when you listen to social media, you got a number of Blacks like Roland Martin. And Roland Martin, he's a coward. When you don't agree with what he tells you, he wants to start doing name calls. Somebody's going to knock him out one day. And he'll deserve it. And you got people up here like Don Lemon wanting to run for president. Stephen A. Smith. See, Stephen A. Smith is another one that I can't trust. Oh, yeah, he'll sit there with a forked tongue and talk about the Democrats. But then again, he voted for one, Kamala Harris. And what I'm telling you is you can't listen to what people say. You have to look at what they do, first and foremost, because you have a number of individuals who do nothing but talk. Now, let me go ahead and bring up something about auto pay here for a moment again, so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And of course, this is AI generated, but I already know about auto pay. Well, auto pay is what we call an automatic debit. And what it does, it gives companies the authorization to withdraw money from your account. And what that does, it grants them control over the timing and the amounts, and it's on a recurring basis. Now, here's the issue. The good thing about it is, okay, while it is convenient, because you're going to avoid some late fees, you're going to have some risk like overdrafts. So if you want auto pay to work, then what you have to do is be more proactive with your account. And you need to, so you don't get overcharged. Now, here's what you need as far as the considerations for control. Well, you look at authorization, but not total control. So what I'm going to tell you is this. You must give explicit permission in advance for companies to withdraw funds. But you retain the right, and that's the legal right, to stop these payments. So if I have an issue with a payment, I'm going to call my bank up and put a stop payment on it. Now I know you're saying, well, Leon, what does this have to do with going on in the culture? Well, what's going on in the culture? Because a lot of us are doing it and we're running into dead ends and we don't know how to control, number one, our accounts, our money. I mean, we've already given away enough of our freedoms, but when you're giving these companies control of your money, then we have issues. And you have to look at this. You're going to have variable amount risk. And what I mean is, what if you have a utility bill and the amount changes? So if you are on automatic pay, the company is going to automatically withdraw the new amount, which it could surprise you. This is why you have to actively check your account. Then you have overdraft protection, just like everything else. If you don't have enough funds in the account, you may be hit with both overdraft fees from your bank and insufficient fees from the company. And then you have cancellation challenges. And when it comes to auto pay, when you're going to cancel the auto pay, now you got to go back to the company or the vendor. So in other words, you have to contact the vendor, which sometimes be difficult. And that's compared to stopping the payment at your bank. This is why if I make a mistake, and I've made a mistake before, contact my bank first to get them to stop that payment. But this is what you need to do. And in society, you can't allow yourself to be part of a system that's going to keep you down. Because again, you have a number of people living in these subdivisions. They have all these cars. Some people buy cars every 6 years. Well, here's the problem when you buy a car. You're constantly financing that car. Now I hear people talk about, well, you're renting, you're renting. Yeah. I'm not saying there are any more advantages to renting versus mortgage, but I certainly do not want to be stuck in a 30-year mortgage. In fact, when I'm renting, it's much easier for me to break a lease than it is a mortgage. I don't have to worry about selling the house. Yes, houses, you get equity, but the funny thing about a house, owning a home, I'm not saying it's not great. If you're going to stay there in that home and pass it down, that's fine. That's fine. But guess what you never own? Even if you pay the house off, you never own that property that house is on. So you still pay property taxes. And you have some states with high property taxes. And this is why a number of us need to be educated in what's going on with this culture. We have too many people that take what the media says for granted. And when you are lazy, you have individuals that are going to tell you all kinds of bullshit to get you to believe what they say. For me, I continue to educate myself, like college. Many of us were brought up to go to college. But a lot of people who come out of college can't even use common sense. Many of them can't even tie their own shoes because they're fed a lot of Marxist bullshit, a lot of feminism, and that's what's going on in this country. You have a number of people that don't know how to apply anything. This is why I say, even being an engineer, you can spare me with all the calculus because you never use it. The calculus is part of the curriculum that has to meet an engineering standard by the EAC or the ETAC of ABET, because they give you accreditation to run that program. But in the end, how much of that math do you use? None of it, especially in civil engineering. Civil engineering is probably, unless you're going into structural, many of what you use, the problems, they're already derived for you. You get into Bernoulli's equation, you can go take differential equations and come up with the Bernoulli equation. But what is that really going to tell you? All I need to know about water is water comes down as precipitation, as rain, and it can build up for flooding. And for the most part, unless you're the Nile River, which the water flows from south to north, water always flows downhill. You just have to create the right slope for the velocity. But see, you don't need calculus to tell you that. You just need to know that if you have too much velocity coming down in the drain system, you better make sure that inlet at the end can contain the velocity of that water. Because if it can't, then you're going to have a large collection of water that is going to be hard to remove, and flooding is going to occur. And if you live in a place that has harsh winters, like I do here in Indiana, there's a chance for icing. Yes, some of this should be on my STEM channel, but I'm just telling you how America has been taught to think by a lot of these college professors, by pastors, and it's been mainly the individuals on the left. Because I will tell you, the left in this country controls the media, they control the religion, they control the jobs, they really control the government. If you really think about it, although the Republicans are running everything, the left still controls it. Because when Obama was in power, the Republicans, once they took the House and Senate back in 2010 away from the Democrats, the Republicans did nothing. Number one, the Republicans are scared. And number two, they know the left will come down on them. See, the left, they're coming to fight, even when they're wrong. I mean, if you look at Hakeem Jeffries, I don't like the man. I don't like the dude out of Baltimore. I don't like any of these guys. But what I will tell you is, even if they lie, they're fighting. While the Republicans don't fight. They run away like scared turtles. They're scared. That's why the Republicans don't know anything about winning, because they're used to playing the defensive role. The Democrats don't care about cheating. You look at Virginia, they're doing a lot of gerrymandering. You know, it's funny because California is the culture. Texas decided they were going to gerrymander. Now, the Republicans don't gerrymander much. And I did a video on gerrymandering, particularly up in Massachusetts. You see that gerrymandering? It looked like a salamander. Well, gerrymandering is not new, it's old. But what the Democrats want to do is they want to shut off all Republican representation together so they can invoke their Marxist views. And then you have to watch out for who you put on the Supreme Court. Because now I'm looking at traitors on the Supreme Court, ones who I thought were conservative, like Roberts. Roberts was a Bush appointee, and like that Amy Coney Barrett, she's starting to side with the liberals. This is why I don't want women running anything, because they go where the wind blows. I mean, if you look at what happened to a couple of Trump's appointees, yes, I know he put them on there because they were smart. And I'm talking about Kristi Noem and Pam Bondi, but he also put them on because they're nice to look at. They're smart, but they got involved in something. And now it's being exposed. And see, that loyalty that they once had, they really didn't have the loyalty. It was just hidden. And again, I say this because when it comes to people, you have to watch their actions. You don't listen to what they say, you have to watch their actions. This is why I came up with the acronym LED: lies, emotion, assumption, and deceit, because that's what many of us are living under just to make us feel good. I mean, a lot of us, when we have an opinion, particularly we get up here, and some of us think they're educating somebody. They're not educating anybody, they're just fooling themselves because they didn't read. They got their information because they heard it from somewhere, probably like a Roland Martin or a Don Lemon or a CNN or even Fox. The bottom line is, we talk about robots, okay? Well, a lot of people in this country, they got batteries in their back. They are the robots because they can't think for themselves. I mean, you have a lot of young people out here. Now, can I understand what's going on? Sure, I can understand why they want socialism. They want something that they really don't know about. It sounds good to them on the surface, but when you dig down into it, socialism doesn't work. Communism doesn't work. You can ask people like Fidel Castro and Pol Pot and Kim Jong-il, Vladimir Putin. You can ask people like Mao Zedong, Pol Pot, Genghis Khan. Now, Mussolini, he was a fascist, but Stalin. They even asked if you could dig him up from the grave, Karl Marx. So he had this vision where the workers ran the economy. Never happens. If I start a business, I run my company, not the workers. So you have a number of individuals who are against capitalism, but you know what? It's funny because a lot of your socialists and your communists, they don't want us to be capitalists, but they're capitalists. Why? Because they capitalize off of our stupidity. That's exactly what they do. And we know it. But in the end, too many of us are too stupid to look at everything. This is why, I tell you, you pick up a book, but you have to be able to take the knowledge that you're getting from that book and go outside and actually see what's going on. Start applying it. You don't need a 4-year degree to have intelligence. We all have a piece of matter between our ears. It's called the brain. Number of your professors, what they're doing, they don't use their brain. They're just preaching hate. In fact, a lot of these professors, the reason why you have communists in your colleges is because they come from communist countries. See, the countries they left from that was tyrannical, they're coming over here making it tyrannical. You look at the foreign nationals, look at Mamdani. He's going to turn New York into a third world country. And now you have people up there in New York who are saying, oh, we didn't vote for this. Somebody did. You have people like Ilhan Omar. You got Tampon Tim. And the liberal mind, I hate to say this, is a mind of stupidity. Now it's funny because on the relations side, and I watch some of and shout out to Anton, I watch some of his videos, and he has women on there who are liberal. But it's funny how they don't want to date liberal guys. They'll ask a guy about their political uh, persuasions, but they won't date a liberal guy. And I'm gonna tell you why they won't date a liberal guy. Because a liberal guy is going to hold you to that feminism, which means you want equality, you're going to get equality. Where the conservative guy still believes in tradition. Well, the bottom line is all that smoke that they're talking, it really doesn't work. All of it. A lot of people in this country are full of hot air. All of the pundits. And I'm going to tell you, the Megyn Kellys, the Mark Levins, the Candace Owens, they were all on that Trump train. Now, yes, is Trump somewhat being controlled by Israel? He probably is, but Trump is trying to get that oil. Now, it's funny. We have a lot more oil than they do over there in the Arab countries. Because in fact, our gas is starting to go down a little bit. We were at 429. Now, are we still up there? Yes. Are we going to get out of this mess soon? Well, we're looking at getting out of it. We have a blockade in that area of the mechanic, in that area of the Baltic Sea, the Straits of Hormuz. It's a blockade, a naval blockade. But I'm putting all this knowledge out to a number of people because the dummies in this country vote. And you have to think about this. Do you want your culture? Or do you want to be run by foreign nationals? Because you have the Democrats. They really want the foreign nationals to come over here. In fact, you black people need to understand this as well. The foreign nationals have replaced you. But a lot of you black people don't see that. And the reason why they've replaced you, because the Democrats already know that black people, and I know some people were upset with black people like myself who voted for Trump. You shouldn't be upset with black men like me, because if you really look at the numbers out there, for the most part, you still had 70% of black men who followed 95% of the black women to the voting booth to vote Democrat. So you still have a lot of black men voting Democrat. But you have a lot of individuals out there that don't actually see it. They want to get on the 30% who actually use their mind to stay off the plantation. Like I said, when you don't do your own research, it's easy to brainwash you. Now, even on the right, you got to do your research with them too, because and I grew up in the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area. And if you look at that area, you want to know what the number one employer is in that area? And I'm talking about Baltimore and Washington, right? You know, you got the big stretch of 95 going right through right from Baltimore through Columbia to Washington. The biggest employer in the state of Maryland and Northern Virginia is the government. And most of the government people, and I'm talking about not just federal government, but you got your county government, you got your city government, you got a lot of government. And the bottom line is the government did create a lot of jobs. A lot of the people who work for the government. Now, I'm not knocking government employees because I've been a government employee. But I will tell you this. In the end, and I know I put a lot of topics out today about technology, about the culture, because if you think about it, it is all connected. It starts with the elitists and what the elitists really want out of us, and we're called the proletariats. We're at the bottom, we're the workers. And when we get something, guess what? We actually live in a system. We live in a system of financing, which we have to utilize interest rates. So interest rates could go up and down. See, we're affected by what's going on. See, the people who have money, who are on the left and the right, they're not affected. So the economy could go downhill and they're still going to make money. The proletariat class, people like me, we don't have that luxury. So we need to know how the world works. And sometimes we need to opt out of the system. And I'm not saying opt out of the system by going out there with falsification like the Somalis did up in Minnesota. No. Fraud and everything. No, not saying that. But the way you can get around it is teach yourself. Teach yourself what's going on. You save money. You don't have to be part of it. I know my sweet chocolate Tommy Jean sent me a video, and I was still looking at it. Man purchased looked like a shed for about $150 and made a house out of it. Now to me, that's brilliant. Homesteads. These are things you can own, and in the end, you don't have to worry about finance charges. See, often to me, financial freedom, not just having stocks, not just having crypto, it's being able to get away from the finance system, get away from the Vantage scores of Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, credit ratings. Yeah, some people say they got 850. Well, yeah, they can give you more money with a higher credit rating. But in the end, you're still doing the same thing that somebody with a higher interest rate is doing. You are financing everything, you don't own it. And that's what they don't tell you. And see, what I'm doing is putting the common sense spin on everything. Because, see, many people don't understand how the real world works because they're taught to think. Because in the end, when you allow the system to warp your mind, you become part of the system and you can't shake it. And when you can't shake it, you're equal as sheep. And what happens to sheep? If you see one going in the slaughterhouse and they never come out, and you don't use your brain and you follow that sheep into the slaughterhouse, guess what? You're going to end up slaughtered as well. So in the end, I'm just going to say this. Free yourself from the system. Now, there are different ways you can utilize the system. Now, some may go out there and get the welfare benefits. No. What you do is find yourself a business, a trade that you can get into. where you don't have to be corporate. You can be self-made. To me, the worst thing you can have these days is a boss, because corporations are all political as well. You're given a certain salary, and in the end, you're taxed. You can't deduct anything, because a lot of these individuals out here, that's what they are. They're all employees. Even the ones who have the Mercedes and the nice houses in the suburbs, they're financing it. And the reason why they're working so long, because they're broke. I used to hear on the black side of YouTube, make $100,000. Got a number of individuals who made $100,000 and they're broke. Doesn't matter how much money you make, it's how you manage it. This is why you get individuals, particularly women. Why I don't want a number of them in power. Because if you can't manage your own life at home and your own money, how are you going to be put in power to manage the country's money? We have a problem with putting the wrong people in power. And when you put the wrong people in power, they become very destructive. Because in the end, they're not going to build the system, they're going to make it worse. Now, you may dislike this president, but he's trying to make some changes. But the problem is, he's really fighting the Washington machine on both sides. And that's why change is never going to happen. Most people don't even care about policies. They care about being in power. Why? Because they make money by being in power. They make money from us. They act like they're doing something, but they're lazy. And in the end, I'm going to say this: the truth is always going to set you free. But if you really want freedom, here's how you do it. You educate yourself. You need to know the basics. But freedom is not having to deal with this system. You can live amongst Americans. Sometimes you have to look at what's going on, learn how to tighten your belts, and live the minimalist lifestyle. Because if you do that, you end up with no debt, but you understand how to discipline yourself, and you avoid the system of destruction, which is all set off by lead, lies, emotion, assumption, delusion / deceit. Because I love America. The late Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. No, he should have said, we have a scheme. Because that's what this system is. It's all make believe. People are running around like it's nothing. And why? Because when you get immune to the lie, you have now been infected with the cancer of the lie. And in the end, you are the lie. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some STEM content, check out my main channel, QCIS channel. On that channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, here's where you can find me. For the 401 Talk Zone radio show, you can find me right here on YouTube. You can find me on X, formerly Twitter. You can find me on Truth Social and Rumble for the QCIS channel. And also find me on YouTube, X formerly Twitter, and LinkedIn. Once again, you don't want to live that lie. Don't be jealous. But you need to listen to this. This is the minimalist lifestyle. Because if you do this and stay this way, you'll make it through life. You'll have challenges. You're not going to have as many as these individuals who are living the financial burden, thinking that they've made it socially in this materialistic society. So I'm going to say this: always be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have, but know that the sun always rises in the east, sets in the west. And if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. And if you don't like the shoe, just change it. Once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. You all have a wonderful and gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.